The transport shuttle shuddered as it descended through the thick atmosphere of Kelthara Prime, and Marcus Chen gripped the armrest harder than necessary. 3 years he had been stationed on this backwater mining colony, and still the violet skies made his stomach turn. The planet's twin suns cast everything in shades of purple and orange that no human eye was meant to process for long periods. His comm device buzzed against his hip. The message was brief, written in clumsy standard English that had clearly been translated from Keltharan. Baron Thelexis requests audience. Manor House. Sunset. Urgent matter of honor. Marcus frowned at the screen. He had saved the Baron's youngest son from a collapsed mine shaft 8 months ago, pulling the boy from beneath a twisted beam while toxic gases leaked into the chamber. The Keltharan nobles had thrown a feast in his honor, presented him with some kind of ceremonial blade he couldn't pronounce the name of, and he figured that was the end of it. Humans and Keltharans got along well enough in the workplace, but their social circles rarely overlapped. The mining facility where Marcus worked as a structural engineer sat on the outskirts of the capital city, a sprawling mess of gray buildings that the Keltharans had constructed with function over beauty in mind. His quarters were small but comfortable, and he had learned to appreciate the efficiency of Keltharan design even if it lacked the warmth of human architecture. He changed out of his work clothes and into something more presentable. A simple, dark jacket over a clean shirt. The Baron's manor house sat in the wealthy district, perched on a hill that overlooked the industrial zones below. Marcus hired an automated transport pod and spent the 20-minute journey wondering what could possibly require his presence. The manor was impressive even by Keltharan standards. Tall spires of black stone reached toward the purple sky, and the walls were decorated with intricate carvings that told stories of the Baron's lineage stretching back hundreds of years. 2 guards flanked the main entrance, their forearms crossed in the traditional stance of Keltharan soldiers. They wore ceremonial armor that gleamed in the fading light of the twin suns. Marcus Chen, human engineer, Marcus announced, holding up his identification chip. The Baron requested my presence. The guard scanned his chip without a word and gestured for him to enter. Inside, the manor was a maze of corridors lit by bioluminescent panels that pulsed with soft blue light. A servant, smaller and younger than the guards, led Marcus through several turns before stopping at a set of massive wooden doors. The servant knocked twice and spoke in rapid Keltharan. The doors swung open, and Marcus found himself in a room that could only be described as a combination of throne room and sitting area. Baron Thelexis sat on a raised platform, his massive frame draped in robes of deep crimson. Keltharans were impressive beings, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and thick, scaled skin that ranged from deep green to almost black. The Baron's scales were a rich emerald color, marked with scars that spoke of a violent youth. Marcus Chen. The Baron's voice boomed through the chamber. He spoke in English, his accent thick but understandable. You honor my house with your presence. Marcus gave a slight bow, the way he had seen other humans do when meeting Keltharan nobility. The honor is mine. Baron. Your message said this was urgent? The Baron rose from his seat and descended the platform. Up close, he was even more imposing. But his 4 eyes held a warmth that contradicted his fearsome appearance. 8 months have passed since you saved my son's life. In that time, I have consulted with elders, studied your human customs, and searched for a gift worthy of the debt I owe. Baron, really? That's not necessary. Marcus started, but the Baron raised one of his 4 hands. Among my people, a life debt is sacred. To leave it unpaid is to dishonor 3 generations of my family. I have spent considerable resources searching for something appropriate. The Baron clapped 2 of his hands together, and a side door opened. 2 servants entered, carrying between them a large rectangular container. It was made of some kind of transparent material, roughly the size of a coffin, and it appeared to be some sort of stasis pod. Marcus felt his confusion deepen as the servants placed the container carefully on the floor between him and the Baron. I do not understand your human saying about looking gift horses in mouths, the Baron said. But I hope you will accept this token of my gratitude. Marcus approached the container slowly, and what he saw inside made his breath catch in his throat. Inside the stasis pod lay a young woman. Or rather, something that looked mostly human but clearly wasn't. Her skin had a faint luminescent quality, pale with subtle patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Her hair was long and white, almost silver, and even in stasis he could see the delicate points of her ears. She wore simple clothing, a gray tunic and pants that looked like they came from some kind of medical facility. "Baron," Marcus said carefully, his mind racing. "What exactly am I looking at?" The Baron seemed pleased by the question. "She is Lyrae, a hybrid. Her father was human. Her mother was Selenian. The Selenians are rare now. Their world destroyed 2 generations ago. She was being held in a research facility on the Outer Rim, studied for her unique genetic makeup. I used my connections to purchase her contract and free her from that place." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "You're giving me a person? I am giving you a companion," the Baron corrected. The Selenians were known for their empathic abilities and their loyalty. With her human heritage, she can survive in your environment without difficulty. The researchers had kept her in stasis for most of her life, using her only for testing. She is young, barely 19 in standard years, but she has the education they provided through neural instruction. "Baron, I can't accept a person as a gift," Marcus said firmly. "Where I come from, that's called slavery." The Baron's expression shifted, and for a moment Marcus worried he had given offense, but then the noble nodded slowly. "I wondered if you would react this way. Your people have strong feelings about such things." "Yes, but understand, Marcus Chen, I did not purchase her to give you a slave. I purchased her to give her freedom, and to give you a choice." The Baron moved to the stasis pod, and placed one of his large hands on its surface. "If you refuse her, I will release her into the general population. She will have identification, basic credits, and a chance at life, but she has no family, no connections, and her hybrid nature makes her valuable to those who would exploit her. Or you can accept responsibility for her, teach her about freedom, and give her a life worth living." Marcus stared at the girl in the pod. She looked peaceful in stasis, unaware of the conversation happening around her. The ethical implications were staggering. But the Baron had a point. If she was released alone into Keltheron society, there were a dozen ways she could end up in a worse situation than a research facility. "She's a person with her own will," Marcus said. "What if she doesn't want to come with me?" "Then she chooses differently," the Baron said simply. "I have programmed the pod to wake her in your presence. You will explain her options, and she will decide. If she wishes to go alone, I will provide her with resources. If she wishes to stay with you, you will accept my gift of gratitude. If she wishes something else entirely, we will discuss it." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, feeling way out of his depth. "And if I just walk away right now? Then I will wake her myself and give her the same choices, -1. She will not have the option of a human guardian who understands the value of life and freedom." The Baron's 4 eyes studied Marcus intently. "I have watched you, Marcus Chen. I have seen how you treat the Keltheran workers with respect. I have heard the stories of your kindness and your honor. This is why I chose this gift, and why I chose you." The weight of the decision pressed on Marcus's shoulders. He looked at the girl again, really looked at her. She seemed so small in the large pod, so vulnerable. What kind of life had she lived? Kept in stasis and woken only for testing. What dreams did she have, if any? "Wake her up," Marcus said finally. "Let's hear what she wants." The Baron's expression shifted into something that might have been a smile on a Keltheran face. He moved to the pod's control panel and pressed a series of commands. The transparent material began to shift, sections sliding away with a soft hiss. A light mist poured out as the temperature inside normalized. The girl's eyes opened slowly. They were large and expressive. A striking shade of violet that definitely wasn't human. She blinked several times, her gaze unfocused at first, then sharpening as she became aware of her surroundings. When she saw the Baron looming above her, she flinched instinctively. "Peace, young one. the Baron said, switching to standard English. You are safe. You are free. This facility will not harm you again. Her gaze shifted to Marcus, and he saw confusion and fear warring in those violet eyes. He took a careful step forward and knelt down beside the pod so he wouldn't loom over her the way the Baron did. Hey, Marcus said softly. My name is Marcus. I know you're probably scared and confused right now. Can you sit up? Take your time. She moved slowly, her muscles clearly stiff from the stasis. Marcus offered his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. Her skin was cool to the touch, and impossibly soft. He helped her sit up in the pod, and she looked around the room with wide eyes. Where am I? Her voice was quiet, with an unusual accent that seemed to blend several languages. You're in Baron Thalexis's manor house on Kelthara Prime, Marcus explained. You were in a research facility, but the Baron bought your contract. You're not going back there. Relief flooded her features, so pure and strong that Marcus felt it like a physical thing. Maybe her empathic abilities were stronger than the Baron had indicated. Or maybe her emotions were just that visible. I'm free. She looked between Marcus and the Baron, searching their faces for deception. You are free, the Baron confirmed. But freedom requires choices, and you must make one now. I will give you 3 options, young Lee Ray. First, I can provide you with identification, credits, and housing in the city. You would be alone, but independent. Second, you can choose to stay with this human, Marcus Chen. He is a good man who will protect and guide you while you learn to live in society. Third, if neither option suits you, speak your desire, and we will discuss alternatives. Lyrae looked at Marcus for a long moment. He could see her mind working, processing information and trying to make sense of a situation that must have seemed surreal. She had spent most of her life in stasis, woken only for tests and procedures. Now she was being offered freedom and choices she had never imagined. If I go with you, she said to Marcus, what would that mean? Would I be your servant? Your property? No, Marcus said firmly. Never. If you choose to come with me, we would figure it out together. I have a small apartment, but there's a spare room. You would be free to come and go as you please. Learn what you want to learn, and decide your own future. I would just be there to help you adjust, and to keep you safe while you find your feet. Why would you do that for someone you don't know? Her question was blunt, but fair. Marcus considered his answer carefully. Because 8 months ago, I pulled the Baron's son out of a collapsed mine. I didn't do it for a reward or because I expected anything in return. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Helping you seems like the right thing to do, too. Lyrae was quiet for a long time. She looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers as if seeing them for the first time outside of a laboratory. When she looked up again, there were tears in her violet eyes. I don't want to be alone, she whispered. I have been alone my whole life. Even when surrounded by researchers. I would like to learn what it means to live with someone who sees me as a person. Marcus felt something tight in his chest loosen. He nodded and stood, offering his hand again. Then let's get you out of that pod and take you home. Quote, the Baron clapped 2 of his 4 hands together, the sound echoing through the chamber. It is decided then. Marcus Chen, you have accepted my gift and taken responsibility for young Lyrae. My debt to you is paid, but our friendship continues. Should you need anything, you have only to ask. Thank you, Baron, Marcus said, helping Lyrae to her feet. She was unsteady, leaning on him for support. I think we will need some supplies, clothes, basic necessities. Can your people help with that? Already prepared. The Baron gestured to the servants. I had several scenarios planned. Clothing, identification documents, medical records. All have been prepared for Lyrae. They will be delivered to your dwelling within the hour. The transport ride back to Marcus's apartment was quiet. Lyrae sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap, staring out the window at the alien cityscape. The purple sky was darkening now as the twin suns set, and the bioluminescent lights of the city began to glow brighter. She flinched every time the transport passed another vehicle, and Marcus noticed her breathing speed up whenever they went through a tunnel. "First time out in the world?" Marcus asked gently. She nodded without looking away from the window. "I have memories. Knowledge that was uploaded to my mind while I was in stasis. I know what cities are, what vehicles are, how society functions. But knowing something and experiencing it are very different things. That must be strange. What else did they teach you?" "Languages, mostly. I can speak 12 of them fluently. Mathematics. Sciences. History of various species. They wanted me to be able to communicate during testing, to understand what they were doing to me." Her voice carried no bitterness, just a flat statement of fact that somehow made it worse. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry about the past wouldn't help her now. "Well, you're done with all that. From now on, you learn what you want to learn, when you want to learn it." The transport pulled up to his building, a modest structure in the working district of the city. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and safe, and the neighbors mostly kept to themselves. Marcus paid the transport fee and helped Lyrae out onto the street. She looked up at the building, then at the street around them. A group of Keltheran workers passed by, their heavy footsteps making the ground vibrate slightly. Lyrae moved closer to Marcus instinctively, and he noticed how small she seemed next to the massive aliens. Most Keltharans stood between 7 and 8 feet tall. At 5'6", Lyrae barely reached their chest level. "It's okay," Marcus said. "Keltharans look scary, but they're generally peaceful people. The workers in this district are used to humans. Some might stare because you look different, but no one will bother you." They took the elevator to the 3rd floor, and Marcus led her down the corridor to his apartment. The door scanner recognized his chip and slid open with a soft beep. Inside, the apartment was exactly as he had left it that morning. Small, practical, with minimal decoration. A living space with a worn couch and a viewing screen on the wall. A kitchen area with basic appliances. 2 doors leading to bedrooms, and 1 to a bathroom. "Home," Marcus said, suddenly seeing the place through her eyes and feeling embarrassed by how plain it was. "It's not much, but it's comfortable. The room on the right is yours if you want it." Lyrae walked slowly through the space, touching things carefully as if afraid they might disappear. She ran her fingers along the back of the couch, examined the books on the small shelf, looked at the few pictures Marcus had hung on the walls, photos of Earth, of places he had visited before taking the contract on Kelthara Prime. "Is this your home world?" She pointed to a picture of a beach at sunset, the ocean stretching to the horizon. "Yeah, that's Earth, California coast. I used to go there when I needed to clear my head." Marcus moved to the kitchen and started preparing something to drink. "You ever had tea? The Keltharans have their own version. But I have some actual Earth tea from my last supply shipment. I have not had anything except nutrient solutions," Lyrae said softly. She had stopped in front of a picture of Marcus with his family, taken 5 years ago before he left Earth. His mother, his brother, his nephew. Everyone smiling on a day that seemed like it belonged to someone else's life now. "Your family," she said, not asking but stating. "Do you miss them?" "Every day," Marcus admitted, measuring out tea leaves. "But that's part of the job. I signed a 5-year contract. 2 more years and I can go home with enough credits to retire comfortably. Maybe buy a place by that beach." The door chime rang, and Marcus went to answer it. The Baron's servants had arrived with remarkable speed, carrying several large containers. They placed them inside the apartment with careful precision, bowed slightly to Marcus, and left without a word. "Let's see what you've got here," Marcus said, opening the first container. Inside were clothes in various styles and colors, all sized appropriately for Lyrae. Simple shirts, pants, dresses, shoes, and even some formal wear. The second container held toiletries, personal care items, and what looked like medical supplies. The third contained electronic devices, including a personal data pad and a communication unit. Lyrae knelt beside the containers, pulling out items one by one with a sense of wonder. She held up a soft blue dress, feeling the fabric between her fingers. "These are all for me?" "All yours," Marcus confirmed, bringing over 2 cups of tea. "The Baron doesn't do anything halfway. Here. Try this. It might be hot." "So careful." She took the cup carefully and sniffed the steam rising from it. Her nose wrinkled slightly. "It smells like plants." "That's because it is plants. Just try a small sip." She did, and her eyes widened. "It's warm. And bitter. But also sweet somehow. The texture is strange on my tongue." Marcus smiled, realizing she was probably experiencing her first real taste of anything. "That's chamomile tea with honey. It's supposed to be calming. Do you like it?" "I think so. It's difficult to know if I like something when I have nothing to compare it to." She took another sip, more confidently this time. "But yes, I believe I like this." They sat on the couch together, and Marcus activated the viewing screen to show some basic information about Kelthara Prime, maps of the city, information about different districts, safety guidelines, and cultural notes about Keltharan society. Lyrae absorbed everything with intense focus, asking questions occasionally. "Why do humans come here?" she asked. "This is not your world. These are not your people. Resources mostly. Kelthara Prime has rich deposits of Tiberium crystal, which we use in faster-than-light engines. The Keltharans needed help extracting it efficiently, and humans needed the resource. So, we made a deal. Humans provide engineering expertise and labor, and in return we get Tiberium and the Keltharans get a percentage of profits from whatever technology we build with it. Is it a fair deal?" Marcus considered the question. "Fair enough. Some humans take advantage, and some Keltharans do the same. But overall, both species benefit. The Baron is one of the good ones. He treats his workers well and follows all the safety protocols. Some of the other noble houses, not so much. And now I am here because you saved his son," Lyrae said thoughtfully. "The chain of events that led to this moment is strange. If you had not been in that mine, if the shaft had not collapsed, if you had chosen to save yourself instead of the Baron's son, I would still be in that facility. Life is weird like that." Marcus agreed. "Random chance. Right place at the right time. Or wrong place. Depending on your perspective. Right place," Lyrae said firmly. "For me, this is the right place." Over the next few hours, Marcus showed Lyrae how to use the various devices the Baron had provided. The datapad could access the planetary network, allowing her to research anything she wanted. The communication unit would let her contact him if they were separated. He programmed his own contact information into both devices and showed her how to use the emergency services if she ever needed help. "This is your identification chip," Marcus said, holding up a small metallic disc. "It has all your information on it. Legal status, citizenship, everything. On Kelthara Prime, hybrids have full rights equal to any other species. You are recognized as a legal adult, with the freedom to make your own choices." "And on Earth?" she asked. "What would my status be there?" "On Earth, you would probably be classified as an exotic alien, which actually gives you protected status. There are laws designed to prevent exploitation of alien refugees. You would have rights and protections. Maybe even more than a standard human citizen in some ways." He paused. "Why do you ask? Are you thinking about going to Earth?" I am thinking about the future," Lyrae said. "For the first time in my life, I have a future to think about. It is overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once." "That's normal," Marcus assured her. "Even humans who grew up free feel that way. The future is uncertain for everyone." A comfortable silence fell between them. Lyrae finished her tea and set the cup down carefully on the table. "Marcus, may I ask you something personal?" "Sure, go ahead. Do you regret accepting the Baron's gift? Do you regret taking responsibility for me?" Her violet eyes searched his face, looking for any sign of doubt or resentment. Marcus met her gaze steadily. "I don't regret it. But I want you to understand something important. You are not a burden to me, and you are not an obligation I'm stuck with. You're a person who deserves a chance at a real life. If helping you means my apartment is a little more crowded and my routine changes, that's fine. We'll figure it out together. Tears welled up in her eyes again. And this time, they spilled over. I did not think kindness like yours existed. In the facility, everyone saw me as a specimen, a thing to be studied. Even the kinder researchers saw me as a project, not a person. You are the first being who has looked at me and seen someone worth caring about. Hey, come on, Marcus said awkwardly, not sure how to handle crying. It's not that big a deal. Anyone decent would do the same thing. No, Lyrae said, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Not anyone. Most beings would have walked away or accepted me as property. You argued for my freedom and gave me a choice. That is not common, Marcus. That is special. Marcus felt his face grow warm. Well, I just did what seemed right. They spent the rest of the evening going through the containers and setting up Lyrae's room. The spare bedroom had been used mostly for storage, so Marcus cleared out the boxes and made space for her new belongings. They hung clothes in the closet, arranged toiletries in the bathroom they would now share, and set up the datapad on a small desk by the window. Tomorrow, we should go out and get you some real food, Marcus said as they finished. Not just tea. You need to try actual meals and figure out what you like. I would enjoy that, Lyrae said. I want to experience everything. Food, music, art, conversation. All the things I have knowledge of but have never truly experienced. We'll start slow, Marcus warned. Too much at once might be overwhelming. But yeah, we'll get you out there and show you what life is like outside a research facility. That night, Marcus lay in his bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about how much his life had changed in a single evening. This morning he had been a simple mining engineer, living alone and counting down the days until his contract ended. Now he was responsible for another being, someone who was depending on him to teach her about freedom and choice and what it meant to be alive. It was a huge responsibility, and part of him was terrified he would mess it up. But another part of him felt something he had not felt in a long time. Purpose. For 3 years, he had been going through the motions, doing his job competently but without passion. Now he had a reason to do more than just survive until his contract ended. In the room next door, Lyrae lay in a real bed for the first time in her life, staring out the window at the glowing city. The soft sheets felt strange against her skin. The pillow was almost too comfortable. Everything was new and different and wonderful. She could sense Marcus's emotions through the wall, his worry and determination and underlying kindness. Her Selenian empathic abilities were not strong enough to read thoughts, but emotions flowed to her like music. Marcus's emotions were steady and true, without the dark undercurrents she had sensed in the researchers who studied her. For the first time in her life, Lyrae allowed herself to hope. Hope that this strange human would keep his word. Hope that she could build something resembling a normal life. Hope that freedom was not just a concept but a reality she could actually experience. Sleep came slowly, but when it finally arrived, Lyrae dreamed not of sterile white walls and humming machines, but of beaches with golden sand and sunsets over endless oceans. 3 months had passed since Lyrae arrived in Marcus's life, and the transformation had been remarkable. The quiet, uncertain girl who had emerged from the stasis pod had gradually become someone more confident and alive. She still had moments of anxiety, especially in crowds. But she no longer flinched at every unexpected sound or movement. Marcus had taken her to the market district on their second day together, and watching her experience fresh food for the first time had been something special. She had spent 20 minutes just examining different fruits, touching their skins, smelling them, asking questions about where they came from and how they grew. When she finally tasted a piece of xylo fruit, a Keltheran delicacy that was sweet and tangy, her face had lit up with pure joy. Since then, food had become one of her great pleasures. Marcus taught her how to cook simple meals, and she took to it with enthusiasm. She experimented with different combinations of ingredients, sometimes creating disasters that they laughed about while ordering takeout, and sometimes surprising them both with dishes that were genuinely delicious. But it was not just food. Liray absorbed everything around her with intense curiosity. She spent hours on her datapad, researching different topics that caught her interest. She learned about Earth history, Kelthoran culture, Selenian mythology, and dozens of other subjects. She discovered music and spent an entire week listening to different genres from various species, trying to understand what made each one unique. Marcus had introduced her to some of his co-workers, and while the initial meetings had been awkward, several people had become genuine friends. There was Sarah, another human engineer who worked in a different sector of the mine. She had taken Liray under her wing and taught her about human social customs that Marcus sometimes forgot to explain. There was Crix, a young Kelthoran technician who was fascinated by Lyray's hybrid nature and asked endless questions about her Selenian heritage. Work had continued normally for Marcus. He still spent his days in the mines, inspecting structures and ensuring everything met safety standards. But coming home had changed entirely. Instead of returning to an empty apartment where he would eat a quick meal and spend the evening watching old shows from Earth, he now came home to Liray, who would greet him excitedly and tell him about everything she had learned or experienced that day. Today was special, though. Marcus had requested the day off, and he had plans. Liray did not know it yet, but he was going to take her somewhere she had been asking about for weeks. He found her in the kitchen, attempting to make what she claimed would be a traditional Earth breakfast. The results were questionable, but Marcus had learned not to judge her culinary experiments too harshly. "What are we looking at here?" he asked, peering at the pan on the stove. "Eggs," Liray said proudly, "scrambled, with cheese and vegetables. I watched 3 different instructional videos to make sure I did it correctly. The eggs were slightly burnt on one side and probably under-seasoned, but Marcus could see the effort she had put in. "Looks great. Let me grab some toast and we will have a feast." They ate together at the small kitchen table, and Marcus noticed how natural this had become. 3 months ago, sitting across from an alien hybrid girl would have seemed surreal. Now it was just part of his life, as normal as breathing. "So," Marcus said, finishing his coffee, "I have something planned for today." After that, ADMAD. "I have something planned for today. Get dressed in something comfortable. We are going on a trip." Lyray's eyes widened with excitement. "A trip? Where are we going?" "It is a surprise, but I think you will like it. Trust me on this." She practically ran to her room to get ready, and Marcus could not help but smile. Her enthusiasm for new experiences had reignited something in him that he thought he had lost years ago. Through her eyes, even familiar things seemed fresh and interesting. 20 minutes later, they were in a rented transport, heading out of the city toward the wilderness beyond. Kelthora Prime's landscape was harsh but beautiful in its own way. Rocky plains stretched for miles, dotted with strange alien vegetation that glowed faintly in the light of the twin suns. In the distance, mountains rose like jagged teeth against the purple sky. "Are you going to tell me where we are going?" Liray asked for the 3rd time. "Patience," Marcus said, grinning. "We are almost there." The transport followed a winding road into the foothills, and eventually Marcus brought them to a stop at a clearing that overlooked a valley. Below them stretched a vast lake, its waters a deep blue that reminded Marcus of Earth's oceans. The lake was one of the few truly beautiful natural features on Kelthara Prime, and it was relatively unknown to most of the planet's inhabitants. "A lake," Liray breathed, pressing her face against the transport's window. "I have read about lakes, but I did not know one existed here." "Lake Theron," Marcus said, opening the door and stepping out. "The Keltherans consider it sacred, but they allow visitors as long as you respect the space. I thought you might want to see it." Liray climbed out of the transport and stood at the edge of the clearing, staring down at the water. The wind caught her silver hair, blowing it back from her face. Her violet eyes reflected the lake's blue surface, and for a moment, she looked almost ethereal. "More Selenian than human. It is beautiful," she whispered. "Can we go down to the water?" "That is why we are here." They hiked down a narrow trail to the lake's edge, and Liray kept stopping to look at things, Strange plants growing between rocks. A small creature that skittered away as they approached. The way the light reflected off the water's surface, everything amazed her, and Marcus found himself seeing the landscape differently because of her perspective. At the water's edge, Lyrae knelt down and tentatively touched the surface with her fingertips. The water was cool and clear, and small ripples spread out from where she touched it. "It feels alive," she said softly. "In a way, it is," Marcus said, sitting down on a flat rock nearby. "The Keltharans believe the lake has a spirit, something that connects it to the planet itself. I do not know if that is true, but it does feel different here." Peaceful. Lyrae stood and walked along the shore, her feet bare after kicking off her shoes. Marcus watched her explore, and he thought about how much she had changed in 3 months. She was still learning and growing, but she was becoming her own person, making her own choices about who she wanted to be. "Marcus," she called out, waving for him to join her. "Come, look at this." He walked over to where she stood, and she pointed down at the shallow water near the shore. Small fish swam there, their scales iridescent in the sunlight. They moved in patterns that seemed almost choreographed, weaving around each other in a complex dance. "They are beautiful," Lyrae said. "Do they have a purpose for moving like that? Or is it just for enjoyment?" "Probably a mating ritual," Marcus said. "A lot of species use visual displays to attract partners, like humans do with clothing and decoration." Marcus laughed. "Yeah. Similar concept. We all try to look our best for people we want to impress." Lyrae was quiet for a moment, watching the fish. "Have you ever wanted to impress someone? Romantically, I mean." The question caught Marcus off guard. "I did, back on Earth. There was a woman I dated for a few years before I took this contract. We talked about getting married. But then the opportunity came to work here, and the money was too good to pass up. She did not want to leave Earth, and I did not want to turn down the contract, so we ended it." "Do you regret that decision?" "Sometimes," Marcus admitted. "But I think we both knew it was not going to work long term. We wanted different things. She wanted stability and family. I wanted adventure and to see what was out there beyond Earth. Neither of us was wrong. We just were not compatible. And now? Do you still want adventure?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "I think what I want has changed. Before, I was chasing excitement and new experiences. Now I think I want something more meaningful. Connection. Purpose. A reason to do more than just exist." Lyrae looked up at him with those expressive violet eyes. "Have you found that?" "I think I am starting to," Marcus said honestly. "Taking care of you, watching you discover the world, seeing you become confident and independent. That feels meaningful. That feels like it matters." You have given me more than you realize," Lyrae said softly. "Not just freedom and safety, but a sense of worth. For the first time, I feel like my existence has value beyond being studied or tested. I am a person with thoughts and feelings and choices, and that is because of you. You were always a person, Lyrae. I just helped you see it." They spent hours at the lake, talking about everything and nothing. Marcus told her stories about his childhood on Earth, about learning to swim in the ocean and camping in the mountains. Lyrae shared what she knew of her mother's people, the Selenians, pieced together from the fragmented memories the researchers had allowed her to keep. "The Selenians were empaths," she explained. "They could sense emotions in others, and sometimes even share feelings directly. My ability is weak compared to what full-blooded Selenians could do. But it is still there. I can feel what you are feeling, Marcus. Your emotions are like colors to me. What color am I right now?" "Warm gold," she said without hesitation. "Content. Peaceful, with threads of happiness. You are comfortable here, in this moment." "That is accurate," Marcus agreed. "What about you? How do you feel?" "I feel like I am finally alive," Lyrae said simply. "Like all the years in stasis were just preparation for this. For being here, now, with someone who sees me as more than a specimen or a project." As the twin suns began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and deep purple, Marcus knew they should head back. But he was reluctant to leave this peaceful place. The lake had worked its magic on both of them, providing a space where they could just exist without worries or complications. "We should come here more often," Lee said, as they climbed back up the trail to where they had left the transport. "This place feels special." "We will," Marcus promised. "Maybe once a month or so. It is good to get away from the city sometimes." The journey back was quiet, but it was a comfortable silence. Lee rested her head against the window, watching the landscape pass by. Marcus focused on driving, but his mind was elsewhere, thinking about the future. His contract had 2 more years left, but for the first time, he was not just counting down the days until he could leave. Kelthara Prime had become more than just a temporary workplace. It had become a home, and Lee had become family. When they arrived back at the apartment, they found a message waiting on Marcus's communication unit. It was from Baron Thelexis, requesting their presence at a gathering he was hosting the following week. The message was formal but warm, and it included a note specifically for Lee. "The Baron wants to see how you are doing," Marcus said, reading the message. "He is hosting some kind of cultural exchange event. Humans, Keltharans, and representatives from a few other species. He wants us to attend. Will there be many people?" Lee asked, looking nervous. "Probably a few dozen. But you do not have to go if you are not comfortable with crowds yet." Lee thought about it for a moment, then shook her head. "No. I want to go. The Baron gave me freedom, and I should thank him properly. Besides, I cannot hide from social situations forever. I need to learn how to function in society." "We will go together," Marcus assured her. "If it gets overwhelming, we can leave any time." The next week passed quickly. Lee spent time preparing for the event, learning about Keltharan formal customs, and practicing conversation skills with Sarah. Marcus arranged for appropriate formal clothing for both of them, though finding something that fit Lee's unique style had been a challenge. The night of the gathering arrived, and Marcus hardly recognized Lee when she emerged from her room. She wore a flowing dress in deep blue that complemented her pale skin and silver hair. Her violet eyes were highlighted with subtle makeup that Sarah had helped her apply. She looked elegant and confident, though Marcus could sense her underlying nervousness. "You look amazing," Marcus said honestly. "The Baron is going to be impressed." "I hope I do not embarrass you," Lee said, smoothing down her dress. "You could never embarrass me. Just be yourself. That is all anyone expects." The Baron's manner was transformed for the event. The harsh stone exterior was softened with decorative lights and flowing banners. Music drifted from inside, a blend of human and Keltharan melodies that somehow worked together. Guards stood at the entrance, but they simply nodded as Marcus and Lee approached, checking their identification and waving them through. Inside, the main hall was filled with beings of various species, all dressed in their formal best. Humans mingled with Keltharans, and there were even a few species Marcus did not immediately recognize. Servers moved through the crowd carrying trays of food and drinks, and a small ensemble played music in one corner. Baron Thelexis spotted them almost immediately and made his way over, his massive form cutting through the crowd easily. "Marcus Chen, young Lee, you honor my gathering with your presence." "The honor is ours, Baron," Marcus said, giving the traditional Keltharan bow. Lee copied the gesture, though hers was less practiced. The Baron's 4 eyes focused on Lee, and something like satisfaction appeared in his expression. "You have grown strong, young one. The fear I saw in you 3 months ago has been replaced with confidence. Marcus Chen has fulfilled his responsibility well." "He has given me more than responsibility," Lee said, her voice clear and steady. "He has given me life. For that, I will be forever grateful to both of you." The Baron nodded approvingly. "Come. There are people you should meet. Connections are important in this world, and you should begin building your own network." Over the next few hours, the Baron introduced them to various guests. There were other humans working for different Keltharan houses, Keltharan nobles interested in cultural exchange, and even a few hybrid individuals like Lyrae, who had found their place in society. Each conversation was an opportunity for Lyrae to practice her social skills, and Marcus was proud to see how well she handled herself. At one point, Marcus found himself in conversation with a human diplomat named Catherine Torres, while Lyrae spoke with a group of young Keltharans nearby. Catherine had been observing them throughout the evening, and she finally approached Marcus directly. "I have heard your story," Catherine said without preamble. "How the Baron gave you an alien girl as a gift, and how you chose to treat her as an equal rather than property." "It was not much of a choice," Marcus said. "She is a person. That was obvious from the moment I met her. Obvious to you, perhaps, but not to everyone. There are still humans who would have treated her very differently, and there are aliens who would have done the same, or worse." Catherine sipped her drink thoughtfully. "You are setting an interesting precedent, Marcus Chen. People are watching to see how this turns out. I am not trying to set any precedents. I am just doing what seems right. Sometimes that is enough," Catherine said. "The galaxy needs more people who just do what is right without overthinking it. Keep taking care of that girl. She is something special." As the evening wound down, Marcus found Lyrae on a balcony overlooking the city. She stood alone, watching the lights below, and he joined her quietly. "Tired?" he asked. "A little," she admitted. "But in a good way. I enjoyed tonight. Everyone was kind, and I felt like I belonged there. Like I was not just the strange hybrid girl, but someone worth talking to." "You have always been worth talking to," Marcus said. "You are just starting to believe it yourself." Lyrae turned to face him, and in the soft light from the manor, she looked radiant. "Marcus, I need to tell you something. I have been thinking about it for weeks, trying to find the right words." "Okay," Marcus said, suddenly nervous without knowing why. "When the Baron offered me freedom and choices 3 months ago, I was terrified. I did not know what to do or where to go. I chose to stay with you because you seemed kind and safe, and because I was too afraid to be alone." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "But now, after 3 months of living with you, learning from you, and experiencing life through your guidance, I would make the same choice for completely different reasons." "What reasons?" "Because you are not just kind and safe. You are genuine and honorable, and generous in ways I did not know humans could be. You have never treated me as less than equal, never made me feel like a burden, and never expected anything in return for your help. You have become the most important person in my life, Marcus Chen. And I want you to know that I do not stay with you because I am afraid to leave. I stay because I choose to. Because being with you is where I want to be." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Over the past 3 months, he had been so focused on helping Lyrae adjust and grow that he had not stopped to examine his own feelings. But now, hearing her speak, he realized that she had become just as important to him, not as a responsibility or a project, but as someone he genuinely cared about. "I am glad you choose to stay," Marcus said softly, "because I cannot imagine my life without you in it now. You have given me purpose and joy, and a reason to do more than just count down the days until my contract ends. Whatever the future holds, I want you to be part of it." Lyrae smiled, and in that moment, Marcus saw not the frightened girl who had emerged from a stasis pod, but a strong, confident woman who knew her own worth. "Then we will face the future together," she said. They stood on the balcony for a while longer, watching the city lights and talking about their plans. Marcus's contract had 2 more years, but they both agreed that they wanted to stay on Kelthara Prime even after it ended. This planet had become their home, and the life they were building here was worth more than any amount of credits waiting back on Earth. Eventually, they left the Baron's gathering and returned to their apartment. As they settled into their normal evening routine, Marcus realized that what had started as an unexpected gift had become something far more valuable. Lyrae was not just his responsibility or his ward. She was his family, his friend, and maybe, someday, something even more. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities and unknowns. But whatever came next, they would face it together. A human engineer and a hybrid girl, who had both found something they never expected to find on an alien world. They had found home.